Hi, everybody. My name is Carly. I have been with Extinction Rebellion since November 2019, and I use she, her pronouns. And before we do anything else, I'm going to pass it over to Janice for our land acknowledgement today.
Hi. So my name is Janice. I use she, her pronouns, and I've been with XR for just about 2 years exactly. Feels like about 10 actually, but it's been 2. We've been doing a lot. I would like to acknowledge today that probably most of us, but myself, I'm in Vancouver, which is land that has been unsurrendered, basically taken with force and with deceit from the peoples who were here for thousands and thousands of years and who remain and continue to claim these lands and to steward them and try hard to show us how to steward. These nations are the Squamish Nation, the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, and the Musqueam Nation. We strive every day to refresh our view on what it is to be here as settlers in a colonial system, try to unpack the complexity of these issues and remain curious and open and willing to learn. And if people are on a different part of Turtle Island, it'd be great to see what territories you are on. If you put that in the chat, that'd be great.
Hey, thank you, Janice. Okay, so today we are here to talk about the Spring Rebellion. And I think right to start us off, I'm going to pass it over to Laura with our action and logistics team, who is going to give us basically how this is going to work. She's going to give us like a sort of a 10-minute rundown on the Spring Rebellion, why we're here, what we're doing, what some of the key information that you need to know is. And then after that, we will do a Q&A. So we'll have opportunities for all of you to ask your questions to Laura, and some other members of the XR team might chime in as well. And then after that, we are going to talk a little bit more about how to prepare to come to the Spring Rebellion, what to bring, how to prepare yourself. And then after that, we're also going to have some breakout sessions for anybody who wants to learn more about considering arrest and how to prepare for that. And also, if you want to do anything else, maybe you want to participate in some other way, like you want a role or a task or something, we're going to have sort of those 2 breakout rooms at the end for anybody who wants to participate. So that's the outline of our session today. And so without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Laura.
Thanks so much, Carly. So my name is Laura. I use she, her pronouns, and I've been involved with Extinction Rebellion since September of 2019. And I'm super stoked to present the Spring Rebellion to all of you right now and let you know what's going on. So before I dive into any detail about what's happening with the Spring Rebellion, I want to take a step back and have us center ourselves on why we're here in the first place. So we are here and we're doing this work to stand up against the climate and ecological catastrophe that is unfolding before our eyes. If business as usual continues, we are headed for 4 degrees of warming by the end of the century. And at this point, billions of people will starve across the world. Southern Europe will be in permanent drought. So much of our Earth will be uninhabitable. And pandemics, such as the one that we're struggling in right now, will run rampant as wildlife dramatically loses their habitat and exposes us to an increased amount of pathogens. Sea level rise will drown much of so-called Vancouver. And these impacts of climate change are already happening, with 1 in 5 deaths worldwide attributed to air pollution from the fossil fuel industry, alongside the decimation of Indigenous lands. We have an incredibly short window of time to act before things spiral even more out of control. Governments worldwide have failed to protect their citizens, and thus the social contract is null and void. Rebellion is justified. And given the science, given the real current human impact, there's absolutely no other choice for us to rebel. So why should we rebel? Well, we're not all here and just taking the streets because we feel like it. Our strategy is based on the overwhelming social science and nonviolent direct action movements across the world that have proven successful. We need to push for transformative change as fast as possible, and this has been proven to be the best strategy to do so. So as Extinction Rebellion Vancouver, we have 4 demands for the governments of so-called British Columbia and Canada. So I'll start with talking about our 0th demand, which is a just transformation. So our government must respond to the climate and ecological crisis with a just transformation that is actively decolonial, prioritizing the livelihoods of workers and the rights of those most oppressed by the present system, including our non-human relations. So you might be wondering, why do we have a 0th demand? So Canada is a high-emitting, extractivist, and settler colonial nation state responsible for historical and ongoing environmental degradation, colonial injustice, and the dispossession of human and non-human communities domestically and globally. While the climate and ecological crisis affects us all, many are disproportionately affected, including BIPOC communities, rural communities, women, the poor, and those in the global south. And therefore, Canada's response to the climate and ecological crisis must be actively decolonial and prioritize the rights and needs of those most affected, both within Canada and in the global south. Our first demand is to tell the truth. So we need our governments to tell the truth by declaring a climate and ecological emergency, working with other institutions to communicate this urgency for change. Our second demand is to act now. So our governments must act now to halt biodiversity loss and reduce greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by 2025. And finally, our third demand is to go beyond politics. So our government must create, and it must be led by the decisions of a citizens' assembly on climate and ecological justice. So starting on May 1st, we will be demanding that our governments take action on these demands by escalating our rebellion. We'll be doing so by shutting down the city until action is taken. And these actions are in line with our core strategy surrounding nonviolent direct action. So for the first 3 days, actions will continue to escalate. On day 1 of the Spring Rebellion, we will be taking Granville and Georgia Street. We'll start this day by rallying at the Vancouver Art Gallery, and then we'll do a march over to this intersection. On day 2, May the 2nd, we will be continuing the Spring Rebellion and escalating it by blocking Granville Street Bridge. Again, we're going to rally at the Vancouver Art Gallery and do a march down to Granville Street Bridge. And finally, the kicker on day 3, May 3rd, we will be taking the iconic Lionsgate Bridge. Days 4 and 5 will center around community and regenerative actions. So over the course of these days, many people have pledged to get arrested, and many people will be making the sacrifice to get arrested. And this is integral to the nonviolent direct action movement that we're pursuing here as Extinction Rebellion Vancouver. In between these actions, there will be camping. So depending on how long these sites are able to be held, camping will ideally take place at these action sites, given we have enough people. However, if we are removed from these sites, we will continue camping at Nelson Park. So lots is going to be going on during these actions, such as teach-ins, musical acts, speeches, and community building events. But rebellion is more than just blocking streets. It's about acting on this crisis. It's about making that challenging decision to stand up and rebel for what you know is right. And however you come to our action, however you show up is so impactful. There really is power in numbers. Bring your family, bring your friends, and let's rise up together. We can do this. It's extinction or it's rebellion. And I hope to see you all at the Spring Rebellion. Let me know if you have any questions.
Amazing. Thanks, Laura. I wondered, I don't know if maybe if you want to do this or if maybe somebody else wants to break down some of the things like specifically, like I know we said blocking, what other kinds of things go on and what maybe somebody else wants to speak to the things that are going to be going on day 4 and 5 in particular, because I know we have some specific events.
For sure. So yeah, on like during our action days, typically the way the day goes, just to break it down for people, is we will rally. So for the first 2 days, we'll be rallying at the Vancouver Art Gallery, and that's where everyone will meet. We'll have a land welcoming. We'll have some people speak, let everyone know what the plan is, just to get everyone together. And then we will march down to the site that we're taking. So for the first day, we'll be Georgia and Granville. Once we get to the site, we usually set up there, really make ourselves feel at home. And then we typically will hold that space until we are like removed from that space. And typically how long we're able to hold this space depends on how many people are willing to not move when the threat of arrest starts to happen. So that kind of is what dictates how long we're able to keep these spaces. And during that time in which we're holding these intersections, a lot usually goes on. Some of it is more impromptu, just people giving some speeches. And then we're also planning on having some musical acts, some teach-ins. I know on the first day we're having a tree climbing teach-in from Timothy, who's working on the treehouse at the TMX site. And then on top of that, we'll have like some singing, some chanting, like a lot of different stuff going on. And yeah, that's usually how most of these actions go down throughout the days that we're holding these spaces. And then on day 4, we'll be having a like downtown like skateboard and cycle where we will be taking the streets. And then our last day will be more of a regenerative envisioning day. And I think that someone else might be able to fill in a little bit more on the details of that day. Yeah. And anyone from XR who's been planning these actions, feel free to jump in if I've missed something that stands out.
Thanks, Laura. Maybe I'll ask Zane. I know Zane has another particular activity that he wants to talk about.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a TD right at Granville in Georgia. So we're going to have large supplies of super glue if people want to take action against the TD due to their complicity in this extreme criminality. And so people can, because it's right at the intersection, you can easily glue yourself to the TD and you're going to be, that's an arrestable action. So you'll be arrested and the police, it's very safe. The police will use some liquid to remove your hand from the glass, and it's very safe and can be done in a safe manner. And the other thing is that people can really, at the end of the day, do any kind of action they like during the 3 days of the Spring Rebellion, as long as it's nonviolent and it's under the principles and values of Extinction Rebellion. So as long as as long as it's nonviolent and there's no blaming and shaming, people can, if someone wants to do something at the RBC, like just glue them, an arrestable action, they can do that. And the other thing about the tree sit is that Timothy, Emily, and Amanda, who've been stopping the construction for a few months, will be doing teach-ins with harnesses and climbing equipment, so that you can actually learn that on the spot, and you can sign up for the affinity group that's going to be moving towards blocking TMX in the near future. Yeah, that's all I can think of.
All right, thanks, Zane. I want to open up the opportunity for anybody to ask questions or anything that they might want to know. Feel free to use either the raised hand function or type it into the chat if you want to. I can't tell if Christine, if you're trying to raise a hand or if you're just on the screen, but oh yeah, go ahead, Christine. Sometimes when people are touching their iPads, it looks like a raised hand. Go ahead, Christine. You can unmute yourself. Oh, you'll just have to unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you everyone so much. Yes, I was trying to raise my hand. I suppose I'm in Victoria, on the Salish Sea here, in the Esquimalt, the Songhees territory. And I doubt that I'd be able to come to Vancouver because of the pandemic rules right now. But I guess I'll be watching. I'd be willing to help out in any way I can with communications or spreading the word and that sort of thing. And of course, I'll be watching, and we'll be continuing to do our activities over here, such as a vigil in front of the legislature on Wednesdays. Yeah, that's all I've got to say. Thank you very much.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just trying to read chats. Oh, Ink and or Justin.
Hi.
Hi.
I have two questions. I don't know if you'll have the answer to either, but we're going to try. So one question involves getting arrested. I guess the first part of the question is like how long people would be likely to actually be in jail, or whether it's like an overnight thing. And the second question is whether or not there would be any like special circumstances for someone in my situation who's a permanent resident but not a citizen. Like, is there any chance of me being like deported? So that's question number one.
And sorry, I'll jump in with that question. What we're planning on doing here is at the end of this session, we're going to have a whole breakout room for anybody who wants to know more about getting arrested. And there's actually a lawyer in the room too that can talk more about that. So maybe I'll just like take that question and pin it, and we will come back to that. Do you want to ask a second? Did you have another one?
Yeah, I've been communicating with Catherine, who I think you put me in contact with, about potentially bringing some flow arts to the first couple days of the action, which is really exciting, but also kind of complicated, depending on which props we're showing up with. But I was thinking about staff spinning and whether a large, heavy staff being spun in an artful way might be viewed by police as a threat or a weapon. And just whether or not anyone who's been to like more of these actions would have perspective on that. I would just really hate for like my friends to have something like that confiscated.
I'm looking into the crowd. I think Zane might have something to add about that. So go ahead.
Well, yeah, about the whole police thing, we can usually, if we have something that can be confused as a weapon or anything like that, and if it's not a weapon, we communicate that to the police so they don't overreact.
Okay.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So I'm just looking into the chat at some questions in here. Somebody's asking about the belaying training. Maybe I'll direct somebody else who knows more about that to chime in the chat about that. And Camilla asks, how are the local nations and indigenous groups whose land we occupy are being invited or involved during the Spring Rebellion? Janice, are you open to talking about that as part of our solidarity group?
Sure. Our strongest connection is with the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, and they have been aware of this this series of days of actions coming for a while. We have their blessings and their encouragement, as well as from Shane Point of the Musqueam Nation. I know Shane is being invited to do some teach-ins. He is very eager to share many things with people who are willing to stand up in solidarity for land and water. And then I know that Kaya George will be coming at the beginning to welcome us. And I think that she is feeling happy to spend time with us in any way that she wants to. Ruben George has been coming to many different things with us. We're finding that Word is reaching many Indigenous community members who come out of interest and curiosity and are openly welcomed and encouraged to use the microphone or sing or share whatever they have. And we're open to all ideas around engaging with all different kinds of citizens here.
Amazing, thank you. And this is definitely an area where we as an organization continue to grow and to learn and to be challenged in our growth as well, for sure. Does anybody else have any questions, particularly for Laura, who I know has to leave us shortly to go study? So before I release her, I just want to open it up if anybody else has any sort of detailed questions about the action. Yeah, Mayan.
Yeah, actually, I was just wondering for the third day, like where we're all meeting exactly. Like I know it said Stanley Park, but I'm not sure. Like.
Great question. The name of the park is Zane. Do you have the name of the park? I'm totally blanking on it right now.
We actually haven't decided on a specific location at Stanley Park, and we're having an action logistics meeting tomorrow, so it's going to be confirmed tomorrow.
And we'll be posting that on all of our social media so that everyone is fully aware of where that rally will take place.
Yeah, on that note, there is a Facebook event posting for each, there's a general one for the Spring Rebellion, but then there's also ones for each of the individual days. So I encourage you to keep track of us on there, because that might be a good spot to find out as we update things and we go along and post videos and stuff as well. All right. Well, thank you so much, Laura, for joining us today.
No problem.
Evening. All right. So before we go into breakout rooms with more information for folks that are interested in getting arrested or taking on any roles, we just wanted to talk a little bit as well about like if you're new to coming to actions, or if you're not sure what to bring to this one, some things to prepare for. I'm gonna say a few things, but if you have things as well, in this room, there's probably a wealth of information and experience. So please add anything unexpected that you might think of. So first of all, we encourage everyone to come to our actions prepared to take care of yourself, right? So dress according to the weather, as whatever the weather might be for the day. Like today was a good example of, it was kind of cool and rainy in the morning, and then it got sunny in the afternoon. So dress in layers. Dress in like waterproof layers. Be prepared to be on your feet all day. We do encourage people to bring chairs if you want to sit down somewhere, especially if you have some chairs you can bring for any elders who come. That's also welcomed as well. So yeah, be prepared to take care of yourself. Bring a water bottle with water in it. Bring snacks that you need, food. Take care of your body, take care of your health. And then also we are going to have some snacks there as well, so you could bring like a mug, containers if we have snacks that you can put them into. We want to also encourage everybody to be very COVID safe. Wear a mask, wear 2 masks, keep distance. We do not want to be in any way bringing anybody any risk, like COVID risks, by coming out to our actions. So we do know that risk is lower outdoors, it's quite low outdoors, but we want to go above and beyond with safety. So making sure that, we're masked and safe that way. Does anybody else have things that they brought to it? Maybe you brought something to an action before. If you have Band-Aids, it's always like useful. If you have any like mini first aid kits, that you never know who beside you might cut their finger and just need a Band-Aid. We will have first aiders on site. we will have wellness elves, but we want to encourage everybody to also take care of each other. I think on the first day, just checking on Ming's question in the chat, I think we'll be at the art gallery for about an hour, if I'm right, on the first day ish. It's never exact. And then moving on, Zane, did you want to chime in on that? No. Yeah, so approximately an hour before moving to the intersection. So we're obviously not moving too far on day one because we're just going down the road. Day two will be a bit of a longer walk. Bring your signs, bring whatever you want to display. Yeah, and then day three over Lions Gate will definitely be a longer walk. So be prepared for that one as well. Okay. Anybody else have anything you've brought to an action that bring costumes if you want. Art. We have an arts team, but if you want to like make anything fun and artistic to bring, that's always welcome. All right, so if I don't see any more questions or things about this kind of logistics and details about the event, what I'd like to suggest is that we will have 2 breakout rooms, and you're welcome to kind of stay for whichever part of that makes the most sense to you. Before we do that, I will maybe, if somebody wants to write our outreach email into the chat, just if anybody wants to reach out to us, the outreach email is a good way to do that. But we're gonna have 2 breakout rooms now, or maybe we'll just have 1 breakout room and then the rest of us can stay in the main room. So if you are interested, oh, Janice, sorry.
I made 2.
You made 2, excellent. There, never mind, we'll just do 2 breakout rooms. Then, so in 1 breakout room, we'll have anybody who just wants to know more about arrestable actions, things like that. We did do a Know Your Rights training yesterday, and Mayan tagged the Know Your Rights training video in there. So if it's something that you are considering, we highly encourage you to check that out. It is not advice from a legal perspective that is not legal advice, but it is worth checking out to know more about what sort of the consequences and things are. But yeah, so check that out, but we'll have that discussion going on in 1 breakout room. And then the other breakout room will be more like, I want to show up, I want to do something, but I don't know what it is. And we can sort of tell you some of the roles that we've got, sort of last minute roles if you want to jump in and contribute. So Janice is going to pop up with the breakout rooms, and you can self-select into one of those breakout rooms. And just before we do that, I know that Andrew, I think, is going to facilitate in the, is that good, Andrew? Facilitate in the non-arrestable breakout room, Janice?
Yeah, maybe Carly, because you're, or maybe I'll go with Andrew to talk about some of the roles that we discussed earlier.
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
You might have to, yeah. Okay, one
I'll
of
go.
us will stay here to let people in. Okay, and then in the arrestable actions, I assume Zane might go in there. Can maybe, or somebody can facilitate that one, but also we'll have Michelle in there, I think, who can answer some questions as well.
Yes.
All right, so you can go ahead and start the breakout rooms, and
Okay.
thank you everybody for joining us for this. If you're leaving us here, thank you for coming. We look forward to seeing you on the streets next week. And if you're staying in the breakout rooms, that'll be wonderful as well.
Okay, and just checking in with Michelle, you're good to go?
Yeah, good to go.
Okay, thanks. Okay, here we go.
Okay, so down at the bottom of your screen, you should have a join breakout room. I'm just gonna stop the recording here.